YouTube, what's going on? My name is Kevin the Tech Ninja, and today I have a rant for you. It's one you've been asking for. I did the Nexus 6 rant about a month ago, and I did the Nexus 9 rant. So as you may know, that Apple is one of the most polarizing companies that the world has ever seen thus far. We're going to figure out why. Is it the products? Is it the policies? Or is it the overall subculture that it creates? Let's find out. So before we dig into this, let me tell you that this rant is actually sponsored by Full Sail University. As you know, virtually every industry relies on software technology. Full Sail University offers degree programs that address the need for skilled tech professionals through curriculum that blends code and theory with real-world experience. On campus in Winter Park, Florida, Full Sail offers a software development bachelor degree program. And offered on campus and online are mobile development and web design development bachelor degree programs. All students receive a laptop computer at an institutional discount along with relevant software and tools. Click on the Full Sail link in my description box down below. Now before I begin this rant, I'm going to tell you where I stand on Apple. Probably 3 or 4 years ago, I hated Apple. I bashed anyone that bought Apple. But once I grew up a little bit, I became more mature. I realized that Apple makes products for certain people. And if you're one of those people that fall into those groups, then you'll buy an Apple product and you'll love it. Well, I'm actually turning into one of those people. As far as video production, I think that a MacBook Pro is top of the line as far as specs, battery, and performance. Yeah, it costs a little bit more money, but if you do this for a living and you make money by creating content, by creating video, then that's a good choice. Also, if you're not partial to any type of brand particularly, and you really want some good hardware and you really don't know too much about computers already, the Apple platform is a little bit easier to pick up and understand because you don't have as much settings and you don't have as much control. I own an iPad, I own a MacBook Pro, I'm okay with Apple. So let's figure out why we don't like Apple. Now before we begin this rant, let me tell you that I'm really going to focus on the products. I'm not going to talk about the company and all the skeletons that are in its closet. Because with every major company or corporation, there's a lot of skeletons in the closet. And for a company like Apple that's so polarizing, the skeletons always find a way to come out. I may touch on that later, but this is really focusing on the products. And I want to make this video as short as possible. Now, I don't have time to mention that they had child labor lawsuits for over 74 kids under the age of 16 working in their factory in China. And also how they used interns at a local university, not Full Sail. And these interns actually had to work in the Apple plants to build the hardware for the new iPhones and iPads. Now, there was over 100,000 students that went through this program. Now, they weren't just working 1 or 2 hours to learn the industry and how it works. They were working full days in these terrible circumstances and conditions that you all know about. And obviously at Foxconn, which is the hardware company that Apple uses to build their products, they installed suicide nets outside their offices. We all know that, because the suicide rate was so high. Now, they didn't install a suicide net so people wouldn't kill themselves. They installed the suicide nets because the people that worked in the lower levels complained of hearing thuds hit the ground. That was the main reason behind the suicide nets. Go ahead and do your research on this. I'm actually leaving links down below to sources that I'm speaking about, okay? So let's focus on the hardware. So today I'm going to begin our journey at the iPhone 4. Now, at the time of the iPhone 4 was released, 4G was pretty new. There was a couple Android phones that had 4G, and the iPhone 4 happened to be the 4th generation of iPhone. And a lot of ads you'll see online were Apple iPhone 4G, and like a little asterisk that G meant generation. So they're really playing up the G, saying that it had 4G in it. And now they didn't say it in the keynote, but a lot of carriers were saying that it was 4G, and Apple wasn't really stopping people from getting misinformed. Also, they had HSPA Plus on board, and they had 2 antennas. Now, they were saying during the keynote that the 2 antennas actually made for faster speeds than 4G, and also that these 2 antennas saved on battery life because 4G was a battery hog back then, which was completely true. Now, they were actually saying that their technology was better than 4G, and that if you use 4G on a phone, that you'd have to charge it every few minutes. But the funny thing was that on AT&T's version, after one update, it started saying 4G in the top right corner. Now, why is that? Why would they say that 4G technology isn't ready for prime time yet, and yet they put the 4G icon in the bar on the phone? Now, don't say AT&T did it, because AT&T doesn't do anything directly unless Apple allows it, and vice versa. I mean, Apple pushes out these updates, but I'm sure carriers approve these updates too, right? Yeah. So why is there a 4G icon in the bar? Oh, because people were confused and complained that their iPhone didn't have 4G. So they felt since the speeds were better than 4G, go ahead and throw 4G on there and we'll be good to go. Now, let me give you a little background about doing reviews for phones. A lot of companies will give you a packet that really tells you to touch on the high points of the phone. Like, it's kind of a guide to ensure you're not missing any features about the phone, which is common practice. But Apple takes it to a whole nother level. They give out these review packets, and it's actually a guide for your review. I mean, if you miss any key points, or if you do something or say something too negative about their phone, they're going to blacklist you. Now, a blacklist means you won't get the device early anymore. And a lot of companies, that will be death for them. If they don't get the newest iPhone, newest iPad before it comes out to have those reviews during the embargo, then it's going to be a huge problem for them and they may go under. So a lot of times you're going to see very favorable reviews because of that. And that's some shady business. The next thing I want to talk about is the Deathgrip antenna gate, which was a pretty big black eye, in my opinion, from Apple, where they said if you hold your iPhone a certain way, that you cannot get a signal anymore. And there's videos online all over to prove that the Deathgrip is actually true. If you cover the phone in a certain way, if you hold your phone towards the top of the phone and that it covers the antennas, that the phone actually loses signal. Now, instead of Apple thinking about doing a refund or a redesign, what they did was they denied it first, and they made videos telling you how you're holding your phone wrong. They actually sent out an example of the way you hold your phone, the best way to hold your phone, best practices, which in my opinion is crazy. They're telling people that you're holding your phone wrong. This is the way you actually hold the phone. This is the proper way to hold the phone. What type of cojones does Apple have to say that? And that's the craziest thing to me about the whole situation. But eventually they came down and said, you know what, we'll give you a free bumper case, or we'll give you a $15 credit. Now, I think that's incredibly arrogant of Apple to do that. Now, I don't know what more Apple could have done. Maybe develop more iPhones, second generations, and when that happened, they provide everyone with a swap out or refund. I don't know. But I just think giving someone $15 for an error, a bug on their phone that they can't control is crazy in my opinion. Now, there's also countless ways to get past an iPhone's lock screen. If you go to YouTube right now and type in the version of iPhone that you're using, there's probably a way to get past the lock screen. And that's a huge deal, especially if you lose your phone and someone takes your phone. They can easily just get past your lock screen if they know what they're doing or have access to YouTube, which anyone has. So that's kind of a big deal, I think. You know, a lot of people's phone is their life. They have everything in there, especially being able to buy things with your phone and contacts and pictures of loved ones. I mean, yeah, that's kind of a big deal in my opinion. And also the famous iCloud leak. Whew. Yes, the fappening part 1, 2, and 3. Now, these devices, these people's pictures are being stolen off the iCloud network. And yet, Apple continues to say that the leak isn't happening on their side. They continue to say that iCloud is not being interrupted by anything or there hasn't been any tampering on our side. But yet, your photos are being leaked that's stored in the cloud. So where is the handoff failing at if these pictures can be stolen off the iCloud network? Also, people are actually suing Google instead of Apple for the iCloud problems because you can Google search for the photos. Like, I don't get, how does Apple get away with that? Like, how are they seen as the modern day Houdini where they can escape from problems that no one sees happening and yet you blame someone else for it? That is the craziest thing to me. And I don't get how Apple makes a lifestyle for people that they can do no wrong. And when something bad happens, the people adjust themselves rather than going back to Apple and say, hey, this isn't right. It shouldn't work that way. That's the craziest thing for me. And that's the thing I don't understand. And that's how the Android community and the Apple community, even the Windows community, are so different. Because with Android, if you don't like something, you root it, you hack it, you ROM it, you find a way around it to make it work. The PC community, well, you bash Microsoft, you complain to Microsoft, and you find a way, find a program hopefully that's out there to do it, and you find a way to work with it. The Apple community, you conform. You say, oh, if this is the way to do it, it must be the best way. Or if this is the way Apple thinks I need to hold my phone, well, by golly, I'm holding my phone that way. And that's the craziest thing to me, and I don't understand that aspect of it. I don't get it, and I never will get that. Because when something's wrong, in my opinion, I fix it. If something doesn't seem right, I get on the mountaintops and I shout it out loud. Or I rant on a public forum. I don't know. I mean, I just don't get that part about Apple users. They just accept it and conform to it. And that's why they're called iSheep. But there's one more thing I didn't touch on that we didn't forget about. It's the famous bend gate. Yes! The bend gate. The bend gate, yes. So iPhone 6 Plus, they have sort of a bending point to the phone. Whereas since it's such a long phone and it's such a thin phone, that there is a weak point in the construction where it can get bent unintentionally. I mean, if you have it in your back pocket or you have it in your pocket, you sit on a certain way, your phone bends. And it's been happening more than 9 times that Apple's reporting. Apple's really trying to put out the fire saying it's only 9 reported, but I've seen 6 online myself that have been reported by people I know on Google+, and I know a person that had their iPhone bent. Of course, Apple will swap it out and everyone's happy, right? But what if you don't live near an Apple store? What if you live in Montana that may not even have an Apple store? What do you do now? Do you have to send your Apple out and then you may not have another phone to use for several days? So swapping it out is not a solution. Once again, they're trying to find a way to just fix it by saying, oh, just swap it out of the store. Well, okay, everyone doesn't live in New York. Everyone doesn't have an Apple store next door. So that's a problem. And a lot of people are defending it, and Apple's sending out their websites and their best buddies to do damage control and mock people that believe Bengate's an issue. You know, some website, The Verge, bent a banana, saying, oh, look at this banana. It bends if I bend it. Well, obviously, but if you take a look at the videos that Lou did from Unbox Therapy, he bent several iPhones. And he's not the strongest guy in the world. He's an average guy. And he bent 2 in his apartment or house, whatever it is, and 1 in public in front of strangers. If he can bend these phones with relative ease, there's a problem. You're supposed to have a phone for 2 years because you're under contract for 2 years. And if you can bend a phone that easily within a couple days on accident, I think this would be a bigger issue with these bending phones. And I think this isn't the last time we've heard about it. That's all I got to say. As always, guys, my name is Kevin, the Tech Ninja. I'm going to touch on the company a little bit later. This is just part 1 of the rant. I'm pretty sure there's going to be a second version coming down the line soon. But guys, if you like my style of video, I try to be unfiltered. I try to have a candid conversation. If you like my style of rants or you like technology in general, make sure you subscribe to my channel because I do technology videos, tips and tricks, reviews, and all that good stuff. And also you can find me on AndroidAuthority.com, SoundGuys.com as well. All right, guys, have yourself a great day. And if I go missing for 3 months, that means Apple murdered me. Take care, guys.